get started, they have to actually have a job or are working towards one. They've got to pay rent there. We house up to 12 women. Right now we have 8. A 9th one should be going there. So it's a much smaller, but the purpose is to transition them out so that they're independent, but not have to feel like they have to go back to a homeless shelter or to their abusers. In our shelter, we house up to 48 people. Right now we have 23 children and 14 women. And we will be expecting more. We have a waiting list. Isn't that sad? We have a waiting list. I have to tell people I don't have enough room because we can't house all the people. One of our other shelters that we're friends with, they actually have a 100-bed facility, and they told me they turn away 1,000 people a year. So to tell you that there's a problem in Florida, we have a huge problem in Florida. 1 in every 3 women is a victim of intimate violence partners. I mean, to think about being, if we went in and counted this room, 1 of every 3 women has been abused by their partner, somebody they love. The other thing that we do offer is outreach services, and that's if they don't want to go into shelter, but they still want someone to talk to them, help them with referrals or making that safety plan, or looking at what their options are. Some of them aren't quite ready to leave, so we'll work with them as well. We get over 1,700 calls from our hotline a year. The other program that I have that is very intense, I don't know if you're aware of it, but Fort Pierce was rated one of the highest in Florida for domestic violence murders.
Excuse me for a second. And everyone here talking about domestic violence, some in the room, many are in hiding, and this is very important.
Not to be like a mother, I'm just trying to be professional, sorry. I don't know if you heard, but I said 1 out of every 3 women has been a victim of domestic violence. And those are ones that they're supposed to be their lovers, their friends, their partners, someone who's close to them. One of the least likely to report, and it often happens, is males. So I see some of you men sitting in here, and you're the least likely to ever come forward and admit if you were in an abusive relationship, because there's such a stigma attached to being abused. And so if us women think it's bad for us to be stigmatized, imagine how men feel and why they don't. We actually are working with some males right now. We are working with some transgender individuals. So, we don't discriminate. It goes across every age, race, economic status, religion. And I'm really glad to be here in the religious population because, often what is said in churches, you're married for life, right? Good times, bad times, bad, better, worse. So where is there a bigger stigma than a woman who's facing domestic violence and wanting to leave? And it's really hard to talk about it, and that if we don't understand what are the dynamics of it and how can we help those women when they're being abused. So we really are reaching out to the faith population because we know that women often won't tell or won't share that in there, and we want to make it okay for everybody to share no matter what you're going through. The last thing that we do some children's services in our shelter and outside our shelter, because what we're seeing is this is a cycle. And if we don't break the cycle, it's just going to keep repeating, right? So we're trying to reach out to our youth, and we're doing a lot of prevention services with the youth on teaching them what's a healthy relationship. What does that look like? Instead of bullying or intimate partner relationships that are having rapes and beatings amongst each other, and what's normal, because maybe their lifestyle's like that. So I actually have a pamphlet that I handed out, and it really goes into detail. I know I only have 2 or 3 minutes, and I could talk forever about it, but I won't. I'll stick to my 2 or 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Charmaine LaFleur, and I am a mental health counselor at Suncoast Fort Pierce, Suncoast Mental Health Center. And I come across domestic violence perpetrators as well as the victims, from the perpetrator to the child that is in the home to the victim. And oftentimes, of course, domestic violence is carried out against the women. And what I find often as I counsel a lot of the women is that it stems from something in their childhood, seeing in their home. And one of the saddest things is that they feel that they can't leave. Oftentimes, the woman is the caretaker at home, and the man is the provider. So they're looking at, how will I survive? How will my children make it? I need this man. So in a sense, they're bearing the pain and the suffering a lot of times because of their children. And the saddest thing is them feeling that they don't have the resources or the means to make it on their own, nor the confidence or the esteem to make it on their own. And I see a lot of women, and I counsel a lot of women who physically, they look like a woman, but emotionally they're stuck as a child. And often growing up in a dysfunctional home, they never had that example of what a healthy relationship looks like. Sometimes they deal with issues stemming from a father that wasn't there, or a father who was not emotionally there. They were there as the provider. They was there physically, but emotionally showing, that child, this is how you treat a woman. This is what love looks like. And I remember one client, and she was young. She told me that she never heard "I love you" from her parents. And that was something that was really hard for me to even understand, how you can't tell your child that, but you have dysfunctional homes. And oftentimes the violence and the things that we see in our society is a reflection of what is really going on in our homes. And dysfunction is contagious. So it all begins at home. It begins at setting an example of what a relationship looks like. What do love look like? Is it okay for me to be beaten, but he's telling me that he loves me? Obviously he loves me because he's hitting me, and that's some way of showing me that he loves me. So you will be amazed of the paradigms and the mindset that a lot of women have, because at least a man is there in their life, and they never had that. So as I counsel these women, it's you may have a friend, or you may know someone that is going through this, and sometimes we're doing the best thing by telling them they need to leave. But really, you can't really say that, because they have to reach that conclusion on their own.
That's right. That's right.
So you think you're doing, them justice, and you think, but really, that may detour them, and that may break up your relationship, because they feel like maybe you don't understand. So if you do know someone that is in that relationship where they're being abused, and domestic violence is dimensional. It does not just mean they're being hit on. It could be verbal abuse. I mean, there's so many different dimensions of what domestic violence is. Domestic violence, when you break it down, it is breaking the worth or the value of that individual. So it goes so surpast the physical abuse. So don't think because you're in a relationship and that person isn't hitting you that you're not in a domestic violence, because if they're tearing down your character, tearing down your self-worth, that is abuse. That is abuse. So if you do know someone, whether man or woman, that is in that situation, just be an ear, just be someone that can listen to them. You may not know what to say, but just listen. Sometimes they just need to vent. And as they vent, as they talk, somewhere down the road, eventually it'll click that, you know what, I'm better than this. I don't have to take this. Yeah. So you don't try to be the savior and rescue them out of that. Let them reach that revelation. Let them get there. Because then you may be the person they blame for breaking it up. Because they never reached that revelation to themselves. So it's not your job to try to pull them out of that relationship. Even though you feel like you're doing the best thing, it's not. Let them reach that place themselves. And just accept them. Don't judge them. Don't look down on them because they won't leave. Like, oh, you know how we go, especially as church people. We could condemn them for, not wanting to leave. Oh, what's wrong with them? I wouldn't take that. You don't know what you would take if you're not in that situation. So what you have to do is just Love them, pass it. Unconditional love, unconditional regard. Don't judge them, don't look down at them, but